Hi, my name is Lynn Fitzhugh. I'm the Executive Director of Restoring Earth Connection, and we have this project, the Tree Ambassador Program, which is funded by an Inspire grant from the City of Olympia. The slideshow that we're going to be looking at here is starting with some context for why the Tree Ambassador Program exists. Trees are beautiful. That's the thing that's the most obvious to all of us. But they do a lot more than that. We are literally in a symbiotic relationship with trees. The trees are drawing down CO2 and then they convert and release it as oxygen. We humans breathe oxygen and then we breathe out CO2. So without trees, we would not be on the planet, nor would any mammal life. They also do a lot to improve air quality. So not only are they drawing down CO2, but they're also drawing down pollution. About 1/3 of all of the pollution in the air is drawn down by trees. Less
Is
pollution,
in,
less. Yes.
did you know that this PowerPoint isn't back up?
The PowerPoint isn't what?
Did you mean to put the PowerPoint back up? Because it's not showing.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Thank you for interrupting.
I think you gotta start the PowerPoint before, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it.
Okay. Um, My name is Lynn Fitzhugh. I'm the Executive Director of Restoring Earth Connection. And we have this project, the Tree Ambassador Program, which is funded by the City of Olympia through its Inspire grant. This slideshow is to give us a little context about why we're working on protecting trees. One of the more obvious things is that trees are beautiful, but they also do a lot more than that. This slide talks about the symbiotic relationship that exists between trees and humans. Trees are drawing down carbon and they're converting it and releasing oxygen. We are breathing in oxygen and breathing out carbon. So there literally wouldn't be human life or mammalian life on the planet if it were not for trees. They also improve air quality. Trees draw down pollutants through their leaves. About 1/3 of all pollution is drawn down by them. This means with less pollution that we have less asthma, cardiac disease, and strokes. And there's studies that show that in neighborhoods with less trees, there's less asthma. And this is kind of a justice issue because in neighborhoods that were redlined, there was a lot of the development would happen in a way where there were not trees left in that neighborhood. And so then we have worse health outcomes in those neighborhoods. Next slide. So I've already mentioned about trees drawing down carbon. They are also storing it. They store it in their bark and in their roots. This is a huge help with climate change. In general, our human strategies for dealing with climate change are to have less emissions. But the only way we have of actually drawing carbon out of our atmosphere is through plant life. So all plants do this, but trees by their size are by far the most efficient at this. So they are a significant part of the solution to climate change. They also do stormwater retention, which means that they can help to prevent floods. And in this slide here, you see on the right a heavily built up urban area where we have a lot of impervious surfaces. And then you see on the left an area that has trees and grass and this sort of thing. So it's showing that 50% can be drawn into the earth by the roots of trees and grass and that sort of thing. Whereas in a heavily urban area like that, you may get only 15% being able to go down. So if you have a flash flood, of which we are having increasingly more with climate conditions, and it hits a hard surface, all it can do is rush sideways, which makes flooding and in some cases even fatal flooding. So it's really important that we have trees and that we have them evenly distributed throughout our communities. That same drawing down of liquid helps keep the soil moist, so it prevents desertification or drought. The shade of the trees prevent us from heat islands. Densely urban areas can be 3 to 10 degrees hotter than other areas, and trees can provide 2 to 4 degrees of cooling for the buildings that are closest to them. And of course, we also expect hotter, increased heat with climate change. So this is also protective in that way. People who have trees by their homes actually have lower energy needs. In the wintertime, the trees provide a little bit of a buffer, so it keeps the house warmer. And in the summer, of course, it provides shade and cooling, so less air conditioning is needed. One study found that people saved about $330 a year on their electric bills if they had a tree within 6 feet of their house. So that's a pretty significant savings, actually. And that may not be adjusted for inflation. Trees provide wildlife habitat. Here we have a photo of a maple blossom. Our big leaf maples are a critical early spring food source for bees before the flowers are around to help them out. I touched a little bit earlier on the health benefits of trees. Turns out that there are studies that show if you can just see a tree out your window, you're less likely to suffer from depression. Trees can decrease blood pressure, stress, and depression. Also, it increases the ability to focus for those with ADHD or ADD, and improves immune system strength, accelerates recovery from surgery or illness, improves energy level, and improves ability to sleep. It turns out trees have a little kind of aerosol that they release into the air. You can't even see it. That has this immune boosting effect to the point where Kaiser has started to recommend to people who have cancer or who are in surgery recovery that they take 20-minute a day walk in the woods. All trees are not equal. The older trees, the larger trees tend to be the older trees, and they used to think that the small trees, because they were growing rapidly, were doing more of the work. As it turns out, it takes trees about 30 years to become really effective and efficient at drawing down carbon. And the older the tree, the more carbon stores it has, but also the more efficient it is. So this is a significant point. We have focused our work on trying to protect the largest trees because that feels like the best way that we can preserve the kind of benefits that we're talking about. Also, the big trees, studies now show are protective of the littler trees around them and will do things to sort of help those little trees that are by them. Okay, so our Washington forests are a great big deal. The forests of Washington do an exceptional amount of carbon drawdown. They are considered equal or second only to the forests of the Amazon in the protection that they do to our planet. So at the left there, you see those little white hair-like structures. Those are mycelium. They come out of the ends of the roots of trees. And as you can see in the picture to the right, in a forest, the trees are all connected to each other through the mycelium. This is something that was discovered in the last 20 years and has a lot of far-ranging implications, which I won't get into all of them today, but it's super cool. The trees can share nutrients with each other. They have been known to kind of push more nutrients towards a sick tree in order to try to help it. And the evidence is pretty clear that mother trees will push more nutrients to baby trees that have grown close to them. So what happens when a tree gets cut? Well, 60% of its stored carbon is immediately beginning to decompose into the atmosphere. If it's burned, all the carbon goes back into the atmosphere. If it's turned into paper, much of it is released. And if it's used for buildings or furniture, only the carbon in it is permanently stored, but that only happens in a small portion of the time. And even many wood products we eventually destroy. The best way is to keep the tree standing. What is a landmark tree and why do we protect it? So the county has just given the name landmark tree to trees that are over 24 inches DBH. DBH means diameter at breast height, which is a kind of consistent forestry measuring system for trees. In case you're wondering what that might look like, it's about the size of a standard tire. Because the biggest trees do half of all the storage, we are asking for those landmark trees to be the ones that are protected. They, of course, can be cut if they're sick or dying, but other than that, we're trying to have them be protected. Someone already mentioned this, but I did want you to know what Olympia's current tree ordinance is. So this shows it's what I call a floor method because you can cut down to there. So someone who has what you would think of as a standard size city lot, that's about 3,600 square feet. So that second thing there, and it says two tree units. That's a little confusing. You might just think it's two trees. But there's a different chart elsewhere that shows about sizes. So a really, really big tree would by itself would be two tree units. But in general, I would just think about this as number of trees. So if you think that on a standard size lot, you're only required to have two trees, that's actually pretty tree naked. Most standard lots in Olympia have a lot more trees than that. They have some big ones, they have some little ones, some in the front yard, some in the backyard. So what this really says when it says that you have to have two tree units is you can even cut those down. You just would at that point be required to plant back two, which would be little small trees, and they would qualify with the true little small trees. So this is actually no protection at all.
Lynn, a quick question on the trees. So let's say someone had two Japanese maples that, tend to have, they're smaller.
Yeah.
By nature. So if somebody had just those two trees, does that in and of itself meet the requirement if they have a minimum lot size, even if, okay.
Yeah, right. It does. Yeah. So like I said, this is not very protective. And this is why, the city of Olympia has been planning for the last year and a half to redo its tree ordinance, which at this point is something like 15 years old. Tumwater started working on redoing theirs and then ran into a problem with something that was going to happen statewide, which wound up not happening. But they paused in order to wait and see what was happening with that. And so theirs is stuck about halfway through. They will be starting to work on it in the second half of this year. The county has just passed a new tree ordinance and actually now has the strongest countywide tree ordinance in the state, which is great. But that applies to the rural part of the county, so not, in the city here where we live. So it's still the most important for us what Olympia does. And we are hoping that we can have some influence on that process once they finally get underway with it. So we will be suggesting at that point that they create a tree designation system that designates landmark trees like the county and Tumwater have done, and that there be some additional protection for landmark trees. This is from iTree, which is an app. It's an app you can get on your phone or you can do on your computer. And you can either put in an individual tree, its species and its measurements, and it'll tell you the same information about how much carbon dioxide is it uptaking, how much stormwater mitigation is it doing, how much air pollution removal, how much carbon dioxide uptake, etc. So you can do that for an individual tree, or you can do it for every tree that's in your yard, and it'll tell you that for all of them. In this case, we put in all of Olympia. And so what it told us is that essentially 30% is tree canopy, which for an urban area is actually pretty good. I think over 33% is considered ideal. So Olympia is certainly doing better than Lacey, which let itself be cut down to 27%. And then it goes on to say that $533,000 worth of carbon dioxide uptake is taking place. $688,000 worth of stormwater mitigation is taking place, and 742,000 air pollution is being removed. So once again, we see the very significant role that trees are playing in their community. If while you're being a tree ambassador and you're talking with neighbors and stuff, you get somebody who's, kind of really interested in what you have to say and is maybe under consideration for the first time that their trees are doing something important for them, you might encourage them to look on this app or pull it up in your own phone and put in the type of tree they have and be able to share this information with them about their tree. I think this can be quite eye-opening for someone who maybe previously just thought of the tree as something that was dropping a lot of leaves that they have to break up in the fall, when they can see that, like, oh, it's actually saving them money on electricity and it's doing stormwater management, etc. That's a different view for people. And then Friends of Trees is an action group of Restoring Earth Connection. We meet once a month on the second Thursday of each month. So we will be meeting this Thursday. And we do several things. One is trying to get these stronger ordinances that we've just been talking about. We've also been working on trying to stop the Department of Natural Resources from cutting older forests in Capitol Forest. And we did work on trying to stop a huge defensible space requirement from being required on the state level. They were trying to respond to forest fires, which is a very legitimate concern, but the studies show pretty clearly that it's home hardening materials, getting fireproof materials on homes that really makes the difference, and not cutting huge swaths all around the house. They were going to go for 50 to 100 feet around a house being cleared, which frankly on most city lots is the entire lot. So we did stop that. And then we're also doing this program, Tree Ambassadors. So that's what Friends of Trees does.
Can I ask you a quick question about that space or defensible space perimeter around the trees? So I had somebody do a look at that on a small property on Lopez, and I was pleased because it didn't seem like, I mean, they wanted obvious things. They didn't want limbs hanging over your roof, that kind of stuff. But how long ago did you guys get that changed, or did you prevent them from making that 50 to 100 feet? Was that recent?
Yeah, they were trying to do it last spring, basically.
Okay. Oh, wow. So really recently, yeah.
Yeah, and so we got that stopped, and then it came back kind of like a bad dream. In January, it was reintroduced into the legislature.
Oh, so this is a legislative because it's a statewide proposal. It's not something that DNR, I guess, wouldn't have purview because it would be on public and private, or it'd be on private lands, residential.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, no, DNR has nothing to do with that, but the legislature designates to the state building code council to make building code for the whole state. So the original problem had come through SBCC. And we could not get them to listen to us, but a bill was introduced into the legislature that stopped them from what they were going to do. And then a new bill was introduced in January that would have reversed what the stoppage of the year before, but that also got defeated. So right now, the State Building Code Council is working on what should happen, which is to make code that will have fire protective materials for houses. So, okay, so now I want to switch gears here a little bit and go into talking about the Tree Ambassador program itself. As I've already mentioned, we have a grant from the city to do this work. And then we have a tree benefits handout, which I will put up a little bit later. But it lists all the kinds of benefits of trees that we've just been talking about in this slideshow. So it's a two-sided handout. One side with those remarkable benefits of trees, and then the other side describes the Tree Ambassador program, directs people to our website so that they can find where to record their tree, and just gives them a little information about our program. So this handout is when you're walking around, it's something to leave with homeowners. And probably not surprisingly, even on the weekends, there's a large number of people who are not home when you go knock on their door, or maybe they're home and they just don't feel safe to answer their door. But at any rate, I would say around 2/3 of the doors you knock on, there will be nobody there. So we just leave the flyer with them, and we feel like that's still helpful because if they read it, they will still get that important information about all the things that their trees are doing. And it does have some, it also directs them to a website where they can learn more about tree care for their tree and that sort of thing. We also have a contest, and the contest is partly a way to try to engage people with the whole Tree Ambassador idea. So we are looking for, number one, the biggest tree in Olympia. Two, we are looking for the biggest tree of each species in Olympia. And then we're also looking for just the biggest tree in each neighborhood. And when I say neighborhood, we are defining that by the neighborhood association sort of map of neighborhoods. So, you know, a neighborhood might be East Side neighborhood, or it might be South Capitol neighborhood. They have names like that. You probably know what neighborhood you're in. So also looking for the biggest one in each neighborhood. And we had started out where we were just doing the 16 most common trees in Olympia, but people were always arguing with me about whether that list was accurate or not. Those were really the 16 most common ones. So I've decided, never mind about that. We're just going to find the largest ones of whatever species people bothered to record. So we may wind up with quite a number of categories. So we're hoping that this is something that will help you engage with people. I must say, some of the people who've been really eager to record their trees were eager to record them because they were sure their tree was the biggest one, at least of its kind. And people do have pride in that, which I think is a great thing. And I think for somebody who maybe did not realize that their tree of its particular species was big and was significant, it gives them another reason to respect the tree. So this has actually been working out pretty nice, having the tree contest. So we do have on our website a place to record trees. And that is for the contest, but also one of the other sort of positive outcomes from doing this project is we have worked with the City of Olympia's tree arborists, and they have a LiDAR study which shows what LiDAR can show you, which is about the height of trees. And there is definitely some correlation between really tall trees being really old trees, but it's not a perfect way to figure it out because some species of trees just naturally grow very tall. Doug firs can grow tall really fast, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're older than their neighbor trees of other species. So the city has that as a sort of imperfect data set. But you cannot tell on the LiDAR what species anything is. It's just a dot on the LiDAR. So they're very interested in learning more about what the species are that we have inside of the city, because for them to protect those trees, for them to, give information to people about the treatment of the trees, also for them to figure out where they want to plant new trees on behalf of the city, they need more information. So part of our recording of this is for the benefit of the city. And then, of course, the other purpose of this is just to really educate neighbors so that they will be thoughtful about their trees. So if we were doing this in person, you would have a little packet, which I would give you. So I'm going to have to arrange to get you a packet. But in that packet, you would have a bunch of those benefits of trees handouts to give people. You would have a stapled together handout that shows a variety of different trees with a picture of them so you can help ID them. There is another way to do that, which there is an app, which is called Picture This, which you can download onto your phone. That one's pretty cool because you focus it on a tree, you take a picture through the app, and then after about 30 seconds, it will tell you what kind of tree it is. So if you don't yourself already know, which most of us don't, then you can find out that way. The homeowner may or may not know the species of the tree in their yard. And the reason why it is important for us to know is because, again, if the tree is going to compete in the contest, we have to be able to say, this is a Doug fir, or this is a red western cedar, or this is a big leaf maple, or whatever it is. So we have those two different ways. You can either use the paper guide to figure it out, or you can use an app to figure it out. Then the other piece of information there's two pieces of information that have to be captured for it to be in the contest. What species it is and how big it is. So some of us have tape measures, you know, the kind you get at the hardware store, that we just carry around with us to do this. If you do not have one, and if you do not want to purchase one, then what I have suggested to people is you just take a ball of yarn or twine and measure out a foot at a time with a little knot in it, and use that as a measuring device. And then I've already mentioned the iTree app, which has a lot of specific information about the tree that you can just share with people to make them more attached to their tree. You may also want to, and it is on the handout, so you can just refer them to that, point out to people the website treesaregood.org/tree owner. If they go there, they will be able to find out all kinds of amazing information about their tree. And on their same site, they also have treesaregood.org find an arborist. And so that has a list of licensed arborists in their community. So if they start asking you questions like, you know, do you think this tree is sick? Or I know this tree is sick, I want to save it. This is way outside of our realm. We are not arborists. We don't have those answers. We don't know how to, but we can tell them, go here on this website and you can find yourself a certified arborist and they can help you with your tree. And then there is also in the packet a frequently asked questions, which is sort of there for you in terms of, you know, things people might ask you about. And then I say, if you really get a stumper, you can always feel free to call me or email me to get the answer to that. Okay, I'm going to, there's sort of a second part here where I'm going to go into more specifically the what we do when we're at the door part of things. But I want to pause right here and just see if you have any questions overall about the Tree Ambassador program itself, like what it is, why we're doing it.
Go ahead. I'm going to switch over to my iPad while we're still on the phone, but go ahead, Alyssa, and then I'll have questions after you.
Okay. Do we go out to knock on doors in groups or like in pairs or by ourselves?
Yes, no, we go in pairs. And to me, that is an important safety issue. So I have asked for volunteers to always go in pairs. I have had one or two volunteers who say they really feel comfortable and they don't want to have to coordinate with other people. So when they have said that, I've asked them to just go door to door without ringing doorbells. And so that is a thing you can do, which is you can just go up to a door and leave a flyer and then go to the next door and leave a flyer and you know, not be interacting with people. And well, I'm going to go to the next slide. So it says we are going into to be aware of trip hazards when you're going up people's sidewalks, because some sidewalks are very broken. And then when you ring the doorbell, to stand 5 to 6 feet back from the door so that you are out of grabbing distance. Decline to be invited inside if they were to invite you inside, and to only go into the backyard if you are invited into the backyard. And that would just be in order to measure a tree. There's a name tag, which I will give you, which says Tree Ambassador on it, and to wear that sort of prominently so that if you ring the doorbell and they're peeking through the peek hole, that they see that you have some official badge of some sort and that you're not just like some weirdo who's come up to their front door. And then if you see people inside, but they don't answer, just leave. I mean, leave the flyer, but just leave, because it means that they don't want to be engaged with. If someone tells you to go away, then go away. We certainly don't need to be arguing with anyone. Be polite, even if they are not polite. Keep it positive. offer a handout, but it's okay if they don't want it to just leave. That is the basic protocol for being at somebody's front door, right there, all on that slide. This slide is heavily focused on safety issues because if I'm going to work with volunteers, I want to make sure my volunteers are safe. But I do want to say my experience doing this now, we did it in October and we started again in March. So I've been around doing it for 2 months, is people are incredibly friendly. The unfriendly people just don't even answer their doors. So the ones who answer their doors are very friendly. I've even had like a few times where I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get away from this person? Because I have to keep going, to other houses. But I think post-pandemic, there's kind of a hunger really for people to be connecting with other humans. And one of the surprising and really delightful things I think about this has been we start in our own neighborhoods. And so it's been a lovely opportunity to really meet neighbors. And I did introduce myself as, I'm from your neighborhood. I live on this street. And people would say, oh, yeah, is your house the one that had, and there was this very sort of chatty thing about our neighborhood. And that was just really lovely. I was getting questions from you guys. So I'm going to pause before I do the next slide. And I think Alyssa had a question, or no, Kristen had a question. You're still
sorry. There, I'm unmuted now. And I do have a request to you to let me into. I've tried to switch my iPad because my phone is so small. It's harder.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I just didn't see that. I'm admitting you. There you go.
Okay, great. Then I'm going to disconnect my phone. Please.
You're going to have to unmute yourself now on your other thing.
There we go. Okay. So sorry to be so disruptive. So thank you, Alyssa, asked the question I had, which is, do you go in pairs? So do you have people trained for all the city neighborhoods? Do you have a lot of ambassadors so far?
I do not have as many as I would want. And we start the first time you go out, I encourage you to go in your own neighborhood. After that, we are prioritizing trying to especially address like lower income neighborhoods where there's less overall trees. So it's even more important that their big trees get preserved. So then I'm asking partners to go, to other neighborhoods. So I can give people assignments basically and say, please walk within this, 5-block radius or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's sort of how we're doing it. And in April, I'm actually creating an event where we're all going to meet at a school and pair up and then go in 4 directions out of the school. And so do a big wide swath that's around that school. So that'll be sort of a day of action together of our tree ambassadors. So there's a variety of different ways of doing it. The 2 of you are meeting each other today, so to speak, and so it's possible you may want to arrange together to partner the first time you do it. And then in general, I encourage people to do a 2-hour shift. And when you do a shift, and that's sort of 1 hour of one person's neighborhood and 1 hour of the other person's neighborhood, or you can decide to do 2 hours 1 month in one neighborhood and 2 hours another month in another neighborhood. So again, there's a variety of ways of going about that.
And then on one of your previous slides, I'm sorry to go back to it, but so you said initially it was going to be 15 species, but now you're saying pretty much just any species will do, its size, biggest tree of any kind in the city and biggest tree of any kind in your neighborhood, regardless of species. So,
and so like, since we have sort of 2 goals, one being to just educate people so they don't cut their trees down, and then 2, to find information about trees for the city. Well, I guess really 3 goals, and then 3, to have winners of the contest. we've modified a little bit the way we're doing it. So now when we go door to door, we'll note before we ring a doorbell, does it look like they have a really big tree in this yard? And like there's many yards that just have, like you said, a Japanese maple or something.
Mhm.
Well, they're not going to win a contest, and they're not they're not having a tree that is in definite need of protection. So we will often skip yards that have no trees or just a little piddly tree. But if we see a tree that has, let's say, 4 12-inch diameter trees. So, I mean, the tree's worth saving, but it's not going to win any contests. We'll still ring the doorbell because we want them to have the flyer. We want them to leave that tree so it does grow into a big old tree. But we probably won't engage them about, can we measure your tree? Because we can see visually that like it's not going to win any contest. So there, the most important thing is giving them the handout so they will leave the tree alone. And then on our recording sheet, we will record the address, and we will record that there were 4 Doug firs that were approximately 12 inches. That still gives the city the information the city needs, which is about variety of trees and a little bit about size of trees. But if we see a tree that we think, well, that might be the biggest one in the neighborhood, then we will ask them, we think your tree is so big that it could maybe win the contest. Are you willing to let us measure it? And, they'll say yes or no. If they're in a rush, they might be like, well, I don't have the time right now, in which case you can tell them, well, if you want to measure it yourself later, on the flyer, it tells you where our website is, and you can register the tree yourself.
Okay.
So they will do that. I'm going to go to the next slide because it gives script for the door.
Okay.
And I'm realizing we're sort of getting to some of the things that are on these later slides. So maybe I'll go through some more slides before we do more questions. So this is the script for the door. Hi, my name is Lynn, and this is my fellow tree ambassador, Sally. We are from Friends of Trees, and Tree Ambassadors is sponsored by the City of Olympia through the Inspire Grant. I found it's really important to say my name, of course, but to right away say that I'm from the Tree Ambassador program, because otherwise they're a little bit looking at you like, who is this person and why are they at my door? And they're really worried about whether I've come to sell them something. So it's important for me to establish right away that I am not there to sell them anything, that I am there with information. So I then say, and I want you to have this handout about the benefits of your trees. So the minute I say that I have this handout, it becomes much more clear to them that I'm not there to sell them anything, and it's just information, which feels safe to people because they know they can throw it in the trash if they don't want it. Then I say, we are so impressed with your big maple tree here in your yard, and just wanted to share this information with you about the benefits of trees, so you will know all the amazing things that tree is doing for you. So then I'm giving them the handout, and then I might, if they seem pretty interested, I might list at least a few of the things. They're going to have the handout, so I don't need to say everything that's on the handout, but I would say, it's drawing down carbon, it's drawing down pollution, it's doing stormwater management, it's just doing amazing things. Then I always ask them, how do you feel about your tree? And this is a sort of significant assessment point here, because some of them will be really enthusiastic and tell you right away, oh, I love this tree. I'm so glad it's here. I don't want it to ever be cut down, da, 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 da. So that's great. They're already on the same page, and them having the information just confirms that for them, and they're happy to register their tree. There are other people who will say things like, yeah, it's a nice tree. which is actually a pretty neutral response. And so if they're giving that kind of neutral response, and if they're willing to keep talking, it'll be important to go a little further in helping them understand that it's not just a nice tree, but that it has all these benefits that are on the handout. I've had people who were like, yeah, I love my tree. And then, they become more interested when I explain that we're having a contest and, are they interested in their tree taking part in the contest, etc. Then they'll engage a little bit more. So for some people, the contest really becomes the thing that they will engage about. Now, we can list a tree without knowing the owner's name, but it can't win the contest unless they're willing to have their name with the tree. So that's just a thing to ask them, like, is it okay with you if I list your tree? And then if it's going to win, I have to put your name on here. Is that okay? You can assure them that we are not giving their name out to the public, that will be held by us. But the registration information that asks for their email is just so we can get back in touch with them. Like we'd like to be able to tell them if their tree has won the contest. The other thing about the contest, which I failed to mention earlier, is something that I think is going to be very fun, and many of our homeowners were sort of interested in, is we hope to be able to make a sort of a Olympia walking tree tour sort of thing. And so we would have one map, which wouldn't be walking, you'd have to get in your car and drive around, that'll have the biggest trees in the city. So if somebody wanted to just take the tour where they go see the biggest redwood and the biggest cedar and the biggest big maple and they'd be able to drive around this map and see this is the biggest everything. But we hope to also, for at least some neighborhoods, be able to make a little bit of a walking map that will show biggest ones of each type in that neighborhood, and also just, sort of unusual or fun things with trees. Like in my neighborhood, there's a tree house that sits in between two trees, and it's just a very cool kind of looking thing. And, we have some trees that have grown together in very interesting ways and stuff like that. So it would just be sort of a map of interesting trees in the neighborhood. So
I would guess that people would get nervous about registering for fear of if they wanted to cut it down in the future, and then they're going to feel like, well, I've registered it. Does that mean I no longer can have control over it?
That's a very good question, and it is one that homeowners ask. So this registration process has no legal anything to it. Like the city does have a process for becoming a historic tree, and that does have legal implications for it. We're not asking anybody to do that. So, really the only thing that their registering of their tree does is it allows us to compare one big tree to another big tree in the city. If they decide later they want to cut the tree down, the tree will be cut down. Unless our city actually comes up with a different ordinance. If at some point it comes up with an ordinance that says you can't cut down trees over a certain size, then I suppose the fact that we know where those trees are would have some implications. But that is a very speculative, at this moment, the only impact it has is making them the winner or not winner of a contest. Now, if people's big tree is in their backyard, even if we put it on a map, it will just say tree in backyard. People will not be allowed to go tromping into people's backyards to see big trees. That is just off the table. That is not happening. And I have asked people when their tree was of a size where it could win, will it be okay with you if people come by on the sidewalk and look at your tree. And generally people are very proud of those trees. And so they're like, oh yeah, that's fine, because they realize no one has to ring their doorbell. No one has to harass them. I mean, people can look at trees from sidewalks. So that's the deal with what it means. So, they can, yeah. So in some cases where I have seen a tree that I think could be the winner, but the person wasn't home, I did write down on my recording form the address, the type of tree, and my guess about how big it was. I'm not going into anybody's yard to measure anything when they're not home. So I've just put that down as a guess. And if it remains that we think it's the biggest one, like in the meantime, some of those ones I wrote down have been surpassed by ones that people were able to actually record. So now it doesn't matter. But if it had remained where I thought, yeah, that's the biggest one of that kind, I would go back again on another occasion when that person was home and ring their doorbell and try to get their permission to measure it. And I would even tell them at that point, I think you have the largest one, which I assume would impress them. Okay, I'm going to go on. So scheduling. So you can either develop a regular partner that you do this with, and then the two of you can schedule with each other as you please. Otherwise, I've been trying, so far it hasn't worked up very well, to use what's called When to Meet Up. It's a sort of alternative to Doodle Poll. So Doodle Poll usually shows dates and then asks you to say yes or no to them. When to Meet Up asks you to put in your own availability. And so I was trying to use that one where people would put in their availability, and then you'd be able to see what other volunteers were available at the same time that you were, and be able to reach out to them and make a date with them. So far that has not worked because people just were not using the sign up app. They were instead making arrangements with another volunteer. This slide talks about how we were resuming in March, but of course it is now March and April, so we've already resumed. And then my hope is that people will do this for 2 hours a month, or that you will visit about 12 homes a month by yourself, one or the other. And I was just describing how you can stand on the sidewalk and write down a property, write down the number of trees and the species of them, and your guesstimate about how big they are, and that will still give us useful information into the project. And then, like I said, we can always go back to any one that looks like it might be a winner. If you find that this is not your cup of tea, that you do not want to be a tree ambassador, I just ask that you let me know, because otherwise I'm going to spend time sending you emails, reaching out to you, and trying to help you get your hours scheduled. So it's just good for me to know when someone's not doing it. Okay. Yes, we've already talked about that slide. So on our website, there is a place to record an individual tree. I have also now created a paper form that people can carry around with them while they're walking door to door, that allows you to record the address, record how many trees are there, etc. I have asked that after you've done a shift, that you go on our website, and there's a place that has a volunteer recording form, and that's just for you to record stuff like, how many houses did you go to? How long did you spend out there? And then in what block by block area did you go? And it's important for me to have that information about where people have gone, so that another set of volunteers doesn't set out and go in the very same place you went, and we just have duplicate work and maybe annoyed homeowners because like someone rang my doorbell last weekend. So if you have recorded on the piece of paper while you were walking around the trees, then you will also need to go into the tree registering place and register, put in that information that you collected while you were going around. It is possible to record it online on a smartphone while you're going door to door, but I find that very cumbersome to be sitting there trying to type in information for each tree walking around. I think it's much easier to just write it on a piece of paper and then do it afterwards. Doing it afterwards takes, 10 or 15 minutes. Treeless houses. Oh, yeah, we're skipping that. We did away with that. Okay, so this was, I already mentioned the handouts that you will get. Okay, I'm going to stop there and let you guys ask me more questions again.
How many ambassadors have you trained so far?
I have trained, well, the two of you will make 28.
Oh, good.
Yeah, well, and originally in my conceptualization of this project, it was going to have 25 volunteers. So you would think, oh, I'm really nicely on course. However, because we needed to take the rain break, over the rainy months, we lost almost all of the volunteers who had been trained in the September training. People, this and that happens in their life, and now suddenly they're in a different place with employment or family issues or whatever. So lost a huge amount of those volunteers. Some of them never even got out before we lost them. So I am still, trying to get as many volunteers as I can. And part of the reason I'm recording this is so that as people contact me sort of one-on-one, which has been continuing to happen, then I'll have a way for them to get trained without having to hold a training every month. So if you do find somebody, we've even found people going door to door who get excited about this and want to get trained, absolutely, get them to email me and I will happily train them.
And do you have people who've already covered, say, for example, my neighborhood or Alyssa's neighborhood that you're aware of? Or
So you are in South Capitol, is that right, Kristen?
right.
Yeah, nobody's gone to South Capitol yet.
Amazing. Okay.
And Alyssa, what neighborhood are you in?
I actually live in Tumwater.
Oh, in Tumwater. Okay. Well, I hope you will not mind leaving Tumwater to help save trees. I have told everybody we have had both Tumwater and Lacey volunteers, that it's fine with me if you want to do a stint in your own neighborhood because, that's kind of skin in the game. But then I would just ask that, after that you do shifts with other volunteers inside of Olympia. Which you can even do all the neighborhoods that border Tumwater if you want.
Yeah, no biggie.
Yeah. I mean, for people who love trees, we kind of love them everywhere. And
Yeah.
so, yeah. Yeah, and I'd be happy later, Alyssa, to tell you what's happening with Tumwater's tree ordinance, because it's actually kind of exciting what's happening with Tumwater's tree ordinance.
Okay.
So, other questions that the two of you may have?
I noticed the fall schedule is September, October, and I'll tell you up front, I'm going to be gone all of October.
Oh, that was from before.
Okay. Okay. Good.
This project officially ends at the end of June.
Oh, okay. All right. So I got to get out there then.
Yeah. Yeah. More questions?
Oh, and is it better to go weekends or weekdays? Obviously, during the day on weekdays is probably not great. People aren't home as much, or they're working at home. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah, when I originally conceptualized this, it was summertime, and so I didn't I didn't think out like the problems we were going to have about, it gets dark right away and da da da. So certainly when we started in September and October, people couldn't do it after they got off work. It was already dark. And so that really limited us to the weekends.
Mhm.
I think we're now starting to get into enough daylight that if you wanted to, with a partner, and especially if the two of you want to do an hour at one person's place and an hour at somebody else's place, you could do some evening as well. I don't think it probably makes sense to be out very late, because then you get people annoyed that you're ringing their doorbell at what they consider to be too late, right?
Yeah, good point.
So I unfortunately we're a lot more limited to the weekend than I had initially hoped for us to be.
Okay.
I work Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, but during like this time of year, I would be willing to go out like between 6 and 7, or about 6, and then until whenever.
Yeah.
And
Or
then weekends otherwise.
yeah, or
And
weekend.
I have very flexible schedule, Alyssa, so I can, if you want to partner with me, I can work with you. I'm retired. So
Okay.
most of my evenings are free and, so.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I'll probably, after we turn off the recording, give you guys some time to sort of figure that out.
Okay.
I think I'm going to stop screen sharing this and I'm going to show you guys a couple other things. Just 1 second here. So I'm going to try, see if I can get to it. I want to show you the registration form. Oh, what? How did that happen? No. Okay, try again. Well, it's showing you something entirely different than what I intended to show you, but while we're at it, so this is just a sheet I have, and right now you will see that our largest Doug fir is 19 feet around. Our largest western red cedar is 22 feet 5 inches around. Our largest deodar cedar is 16 feet 7 inches around. Our largest giant sequoia is 18 feet 8 inches around, and on we go. So those are pretty striking and amazing sizes that we have. But the very largest is this coastal redwood down here, which is 30 feet around. So
And that's on 4th Avenue or
Yeah.
4th Avenue West? Wow.
1801, yeah. It's this was something I hadn't anticipated when we set up the contest. I'd never thought about the fact that there are trees that grow together at their base.
Ah,
That one is actually, I mean, some people are like, it can't win because it's really 4 trees grown together, but it's a really inspiring tree to look at, even though it is indeed not quite, it's not one tree, I guess, would be a fair statement.
so when we're measuring then, because it isn't unusual to see a couple, 2 or 3 trees growing together, should we just note these are 3 trees if we're measuring it, or should we not measure those?
Yeah, I think what we've decided is we're going to create a category for those grown together trees.
Okay.
So go ahead and measure it because it's still significant. Oh, that is not what I wanted either. Oh, for God's sake. All right, give me a minute. I'm trying to be able to show you guys the registration form for the tree, but for some reason I'm having a heck of a time getting it up. I keep getting up other things. Okay. one more try at this. Ah, I finally did it. Okay, so on our website, if you were to go to our website under the Tree Ambassador Program, there's a tab that says to register your tree. If you click on that, it will open up to this. And so this is what it then asks. It asks for the email. Oh, this is actually showing somebody's. I didn't want to do that. Well, okay, so it asks for the email and it asks for the phone number. It asks for the primary nominator, which would be you, unless the homeowner tells you that they want to give their name for it, and then they can be either the primary or you can be the primary, but we should have both them and you listed. Then does the person want to remain anonymous? Yes or no? So they can agree to let you register this even if they want to be anonymous. And then the address of the tree, the type of tree. So this is where on the redwood that we were talking about a minute ago. The date that it was measured, and you can put it just in inches like they did here, or you can convert that to feet and inches. And then any notes that you want to add to it. So if the tree has a health issue, you might want to say, is in bad shape, is struggling or something. Or in the case that we were just talking about, this person did not do this. It should have said here that there are 4 trees grown together at the base. That's a significant fact about that tree. So that is what the registration looks like. Now, let me see if I can bring up one other thing for you. Oh, there's the blank one that I should have shown you. Are you seeing a different form now, a blank form?
We see a blank form.
Okay, then let me see if I can get the one other one I want to get up.
And this is what we will do online. We won't be, or will we be carrying this around with us?
This is what is online. I have
Okay.
a different paper form if you do it by paper. Okay, let's see here. All right. So if you go on our website, which it is restoringearthconnection.org, Tree Ambassadors. So here's the front of it, and then programs, and then Tree Ambassador. You will wind up on this page, which I'm showing you now. And as you scroll down, it tells you a little bit about Tree Ambassadors. And then it says if you want to get trained, to click here. So there's a way for them to register that I'm going to train people. And then it says register your tree, click here. So if you clicked on that register here button, that is how you would get to that form that we were just looking at. And then what kind of tree is it? So like if the homeowner was trying to do this after you left, if they click here, let's see if it will do it for you. Yeah. So are you seeing that? Are you seeing?
Yes.
So this is the paper handout that I said you'll get a copy of, and it's just listing the most common ones. So not everything is on here, but it gives enough information, hopefully, for them to figure out what their tree is. So,
well, when you say hopefully for them to figure out, so if we're out there in their yard with them, this is the tool we're going to use to identify the tree.
If you just use your paper copy that you have with you, then yes, this is the only thing you have. But if you want to get the get an app on your
Yes. Okay, good.
so there's an app called Picture This.
Good.
And it is only free for 1 month, but it's very inexpensive as an annual one. I just went ahead and paid for it to have it on my, because one of the fun things is not only will it identify any tree, but it will also identify any plant. So when I moved here, there were all these things in my garden. I had no idea what they were because the previous person had planted all kinds of stuff here. And I just went around with my little app, click. Oh, that's a that. Oh, click. Oh, that's a that. So now I know what everything in my yard is, which is just great. So
Okay. That's good to know. You used to be able to do it with photos, and then you could click the photo, and I think Google would do a self-identity, and I've noticed recently that's not happening. So I'll just get the app because
Yeah.
I cannot identify trees by looking at a piece of paper.
Most people cannot identify.
Really hard.
You know, most of us only know a really small handful of trees. And I have to say, one of the other things that's been very fun about doing this project is I now can identify them by sight much more. I mean, not all, but I've clicked on enough ones and oh, that's another, oh, okay. So now I recognize that kind of tree when I see it.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, okay. Any other questions either one of you have about any of this? I'm probably gonna pause the recording after this and just chat with the two of you for a minute, but any questions that you think other people want to know? Okay, I'm turning off the recording.